Hello, listeners, and welcome to another episode of Subscription Scaled. I'm your host, Nick Frederick. With me today is John Roman, who is the CEO of BattlBox. John, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, we're glad to have you on here today. And, you guys have been around for a little while, and I'm sure there's a lot that we can learn. But, for listeners that maybe aren't so familiar, tell us a little bit more about your background and how you came to be at BattlBox.
Sure. So, man, my background did not suggest that I would be in e-commerce, specifically subscription. So my background, this is my third career. To my parents, super proud, got done with university, and I decided I was going to be a professional poker player. That was career one. It was short-lived. It was about 4.5 years. And then
That's a pretty good run, though.
yeah, I mean, it paid the bills for 4.5 years. So career two, I went into sales, B2B sales, and started at the bottom of a publicly traded company selling technology, and close to a decade I spent in that space. Towards the end of that, I started investing, and I started to build a network. Started investing in companies that would cross my desk that I would hear about, and BattlBox was one of them. So the gentleman that came up with the idea, Daniel, went to school with him, and learned about BattlBox about a week after launch, invested in it, and the plan was kind of a advisement limited role. We're talking maybe a couple hours a month, and it quickly turned into a weird conundrum where I was working 120 hours a week, 60 for my normal job that's paying the bills, and 60 for BattlBox, and the 120 was growing. So I had to make a decision. I have to pick one. I couldn't do both, so I made the decision to jump in at BattlBox full time.
That's awesome. Well,
Yeah.
So other than working more hours than any human should, what was the impetus that told you that, I need to throw both of my feet into BattlBox?
So I had just made in 26 so BattlBox, we launched it in February 2015. So I was an owner at that point. And fast forward to the beginning of 2016, I started, I changed jobs, and I went to this startup, and their annual revenue was, I think, like 11 or 12 million. But they were growing, and my role was to grow it pretty significantly. And, sometimes you're oversold an idea concept. I got in, realized that tech probably was a couple years farther than away, and it wasn't going to be an easy journey. Meanwhile, BattlBox, the side hustle, in the beginning of 2016, first quarter, and using that as the trajectory and what's this year going to look like, we were going to be 8 figures. So we were right in line with the company that I was working for that I had a bunch of phantom equity in, right? It was only going to be worth anything if we were acquired. So it was at that point, they're both the same size. One, I have meaningful actual equity in. One's kind of fun. And it was a no-brainer. I just had to get the blessing from the wife. And once I had that, it was off to the races.
Yeah. What was, so I think you said Daniel was the name of the founder. What was, what sparked his idea or the thought that there was a market for, this kind of product? And maybe, again, for those that don't know, talk a little bit more about what the product actually is.
Sure. So BattlBox at the time back then was survival and tactical gear delivered monthly. So think fire starter to a premium high-end knife. Those were the types of products. And the idea, it's funny when ideas like this come, and when hearing the stories, his fiance at the time was getting a Birchbox, which is, women's health and beauty products, small sample sizes. And he'd watch her every month get this BattlBox, and he'd see this like excitement and process and experience. And he wanted that for himself. He was an outdoorsman. So he went online and couldn't find it. As simple as that. Was like, well, I'm going to come up with an idea. And, within short order, a couple of weeks, we had a website on a platform called Cratejoy, which we're no longer on. But it was a very simple, templated, easy, get it up. And you're selling for a month before you even have to ship anything. So back then, the barrier to entry was very, very, very minimal. You could almost launch and then figure out if it was a product market fit afterwards. And yeah, it was as simple as that. He found something that he couldn't find for himself to buy. So he came up with the idea. And it's obviously a lot different than it is. We've transformed into a much different brand from where we were back then, but
yeah. Okay, let's talk about that a little bit. Talk about kind of the evolution of the product itself. I mean, you guys have several, I think, was it 4 different types of boxes or subscriptions that you offer now? Like, talk us through that evolution.
Sure. So when we launched, we had the same 4 tiers: basic, advanced, pro, and pro plus. They stack on top of each other. So if you got the pro plus, you'll get everything from the basic, the advanced, the pro, and then the additional item with pro plus. So prices were a little bit less back then. Just the reality of inflation, we've had to raise prices. The interesting thing is when we launched it initially, we really felt like basic, at the time $25 a month, was going to be the sweet spot. Majority of customers are going to be there. We'd have the one in the 50 or the one in the 100 and maybe a handful in the 150. But the reality is, even back then, the numbers changed a little bit. Back then, off the jump, about a third of our customers were going in the Pro Plus, the 150 a month box. Wow. Now, present day, it's roughly 46% of our base.
And your highest tier.
And we're 170 a month now, plus sales tax, because we have to charge it now in like the uber majority of states, and plus shipping. So it ends up being, based on your state, around 200 a month. But everybody's in that tier. So yeah, I mean, the evolution, we took a interesting approach. So part of the go-to market strategy was we sent out a lot of the boxes to YouTubers and other, call them pseudo influencers. And we just wanted to get that content out there of showing this box. And what we found, it's funny to date, this is such a cringe thing to say now, but at the time we had a pre-purchase survey. Which is like, why would you have a roadblock towards purchasing? But we had a pre-purchase survey. Tell us how you found out about us before you actually completed the transaction. And we had all your usual suspects: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, but we had an other. And people were clicking the other. About a quarter of them were clicking other and writing this gentleman influencer named Curran1776, guy named Brandon Curran. And we quickly looked at like our spreadsheet of who we were sending our comp box to. He wasn't on there. He was a paying customer, paying $150 a month, and he was then going on YouTube and doing a review. He had a full-time job in the HVAC space for decades. He had a career, and at nighttime, his side also was putting out this content, and our customers were really identifying with him, and they really were. They were eating his content up. They liked him a lot. Super personable guy, great camera presence, but he was also like this perfect BattlBox customer as well. And we made this. So it started off, as soon as we identified it, we said, hey, we're going to send you a box for free moving forward. Keep doing the reviews. And a few months went by and we said, hey, Brandon, got to keep doing the reviews. We're going to give you $500 a month now. Just keep doing the reviews. Box is still free. You have to do this. And then the next conversation was, hey, do you want to quit your job, move your family down to Georgia and do this full time? We had this crazy idea. right now I was just doing one monthly box review, but we've said the thought process was we wanted to really lean into content. We were already building this community via just the BattlBox customers, but the content piece, we just saw that it was resonating so well. We wanted to, okay, well, if Brandon's full-time part of the team, yeah, we can do the box review, but we can also pump out all kinds of other content in the same outdoor adventure space. And that's what we did. So he came on full-time and we went off to the races. Again, it's changed a lot. You know, his first day, he was cameraman, talent, video editor. He was farm to table. He was doing it all himself. Now we're fortunate. We have we have a few video editors and we have a larger team that is so we're able to really pump out content. But at the time it was just him, but we kept pushing this content piece and kept pushing community building. And we started to see a lot of our success from that. You look at, and this is so much true now in today's economic climate, but it was true back then as well. You look at a product on the need-want scale, and unfortunately, BattlBox, some could argue it's on the need side, but for a lot, they're going to argue it's on the want side. It's not mission critical. It's not toothpaste or toilet paper or food. It's not necessarily an essential. And when something is closer on the want scale, consumers really want to identify with that brand. They want to buy from brands with their disposable income that they feel some kind of connection to. And the easiest way to do that is through community building. So we really just leaned into that, and continued building content. We fast forward, it took several years to do, and there's a lot of rejection along the journey, but we had a Netflix TV show, Netflix original series called Southern Survival. It's literally us testing product to determine if it goes in a BattlBox, which is basically a commercial. And that comboed, so that premiered in July 2020, which was a few months into the pandemic when e-com brands were already thriving. And it was just a perfect storm, both of those back to back, and it really just exponentially grew us.
So it sounds like that this is kind of just the core of your go-to-market is that community and everybody who kind of comes into that, kind of seeing BattlBox right in the middle of it.
Absolutely. So relatively we're a decent sized company, but some of our behavior with the community is very unusual. So we a few years ago we had a bulletin board, very Reddit-esque group that was for members only, and we migrated that over to a Facebook group, which some people aren't crazy about Facebook groups, but it works for us. So if you're an active subscriber, you can be in that Facebook group, and not everybody joins. Not everybody sees the value or has the time or wants to be a part of the community. Some people just want the gear. But if you're in that community, and not everybody is, I think we have maybe 7,000-8,000 members in there. But in that Facebook group, earlier this morning, I was in there chatting it up with people in comments. There's not really a member of our leadership team that isn't in there in some sort of regular cadence, interacting with customers. It's the ultimate accountability too. Like if we drop the ball and a product is lackluster, not exciting, or maybe we didn't vet a product well enough and include it in the box, we've created, and it's a double-edged sword, but we've created this culture where customers are comfortable tagging me in a post, which is
that's awesome.
It's awesome. Yeah. It's also sometimes there's some anxiety around that. We had we had a product in the last box that I got tagged in multiple times, and but it forced some accountability and some transparency. And I looked at what they were saying, and my team reached out to the vendor and clarified, and I got to come back to them with, hey, we heard you, we listened, here's the information we found out. And you just don't get that with brands in general, right? It's
Yeah.
easy. It's easy when you're a one-man shop and, there's no other team members and you're not scaling something to significance, whether that's 7, 8, or 9 figures. But to have that interaction, it's also such a good feeling, like to interact with the actual customers that are making you able to live this dream of a job.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, we talk about this a lot on this show, but that power of community that subscription brands have, because they're not just a product, they're kind of around a concept or idea or just a group in and of themselves that kind of have a common cause, is so much different than subscribe and save or something like that, where you're just getting a product on repeat no matter what it is, right? Like, that's just a vendor selling a product. This is about people who care about the outdoor survival, whatever, right? That are in living, breathing that every single day. And transactional companies cannot compete with that, right? That's just not something they do. So you guys being in the middle of that, from the leadership group on down, I mean, that just shows even your customers how dedicated you are to that, right?
Spot on. Yeah, it's a really good point. So to us, it's all about the customer experience. We have a huge value prop. They're spending, call it $200 after sales tax and shipping for this product. And it's probably, if they source it on their own, it could be $300, $350, right? That's a nice value prop. We never lead with that. We don't really talk about it too much. Occasionally, you might see it on our site when we're doing an A/B or multivariate testing, or you might see something in an ad, but it's by no means what we lead with. And it would be an easy thing to lead with. It's a great value prop. Spend $200, get 50% more. But we avoid that because we want to make it more about the experience. And that's just icing on the cake. But by taking that approach, it arguably is, it's tough to compete with, right?
Well, even though you're giving products at a discount, right? Your customers don't really know what they're going to get each month. So you guys have to be damn sure that you're going to deliver value to these, your subscribers each month. I'm sure you feel like you get it wrong sometimes, but at the same time, the lifeblood of your company is making sure that you get this right?
Yeah. And that's kind of, we're very transparent with that we are humans. We aren't perfect. We are literally putting things in place with learnings on how to improve. And we started this year, every monthly box is called a mission for us. So we're sending out, we just completed shipping out mission 98. And starting at the beginning of this year, so I guess 90, 95, every box moving forward has at least one item in it. Out of the 6 to 7 items typically that are in the box, has at least one item that's a customer recommendation. One of our customers actually submitted that. We have a few ways for them to do it. Submitted this product to us. We got samples. We tested it. Thank goodness, we were able to negotiate a price that made sense from a business standpoint. And then we sent it out to everybody. And we'll highlight it in the booklet. Hey, this is from Charlie from Chicago.
Yeah,
kind of
that's
cool.
awesome. Yeah, I mean, not only, well, number one, you're outsourcing procurement. That's pretty cool. But number two, that what that does for customer engagement has got to be tremendous.
Yeah, I mean, it serves so many purposes. It really is something where it's pretty exciting just to be able to take customer feedback like that and actually implement it. And it's because of the transparency, it's obvious. Like, you could go to the members only group and see where that customer submitted that item. So it's just a pretty cool experience.
That certainly. Well, you touched on this a little bit. You said you launched that series right in the middle of COVID there. Most of the online subscription physical good companies that I've talked to during COVID, it was absolute hockey stick, right? You said that, maybe you guys lean a little bit more towards a want item than a have to have type of item. But what happened to you guys, throughout COVID? Did you see just the huge spike in demand that other e-com subscription companies saw?
Yeah, we did. So it started in March of 2020. All of a sudden, we were able to acquire customers for better CPAs. We're getting more organic. Literally any metric you're trying to scale and grow with was looking better. It's we weren't unique that it didn't happen to us. Sending outdoor adventure gear fared well. Another brand we have, Carnivore Club, which is monthly artisanal meats cured, shelf stable. So think salamis, prosciuttos. That business more than doubled in the COVID period, because meats delivered to your door, like that's like literally a pandemic perfect.
Especially cured meats, right? Absolutely.
So yeah, we saw the growth. We knew that at some point there had to be a normalization though. So we just continued investing in the content and community piece, just simply because we want to grow. We're acquiring new customers organically as well, just to be less dependent on the Facebooks, the Metas of the world, right? I mean, I'm sure a lot of people listening to this know about the iOS issue, right? Like that caused a huge headache for so many brands and people that were all in, and 90% of their traffic was coming from Facebook or Instagram. They were in trouble. So a couple of things. One, we've always been diversified, not always, but for the past 5 years, we tried to not have a single lead source greater than a 6, which 16.6%. Now, we might have a campaign scaling that's doing amazing, right? And in the short term, it might scale. It might be 40, 50% of our new acquisition, but we're in the longer run, when you normalize the data, we're not trying to have any single lead source being greater than a 6.
Well, let's talk about those channels for a second. What channels are working for you guys, and where do you see the trend going, right? What of those do you see kind of you're going to invest more, maybe time and effort and resources in, or maybe ones that you're looking to sunset?
Sure. So, we thought we were late to the game with TikTok. We jumped into TikTok pretty hard in February 2021. So a little over 2 years ago. The first year was really difficult. We weren't seeing much success. And then we saw this, some little wins along the way, but then we eventually saw this tipping point where it went from not even a top 5 source for us to now it's constantly battling for the number 1 spot. With that, YouTube for us has been a major channel. For a couple of reasons. One, we send out so many boxes. We're getting all these reviews, and we're putting out content. And then really what we saw, call it a little over a year ago, when Alphabet and Meta, both Google and Facebook, both were concerned with TikTok and the steam it was getting. Their algorithms both started playing really nice to short form video content, YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels. And once both of them started treating it like it was a little bit better than traditional content, we were already producing this short form for TikTok. So we already had the content. So we started posting across on all platforms. And that really gave us a boost on YouTube, a substantial boost. On YouTube, we were gaining about 500 subscribers a month, slow and steady for years. We were at about a little over 50,000 subscribers on there. And when we doubled down and leaned in hard on the YouTube Shorts, I think we're over 600,000. We might be over 650,000 subscribers on YouTube right now, which is to me insane. And TikTok, we have a little bit more. I think we're 750,000. Both, we're trying to get both to over 1 million this year. That's kind of our short-term goals for both. But Facebook and Instagram, they're still in the wheelhouse. They're not going anywhere for us. It's just, they're just a little bit more of a challenge these days.
What's your sense of those, tremendous subscriber volume across those platforms? What's your sense of how many of those are transacting with you, either buying a subscription or I think you guys sell one-off products as well, right? You have the e-commerce site. How many of those are actually, do you think you're monetizing?
So not as many as we would hope for. So the organic approach is so much different when you're looking at metrics, and you're looking at a traditional paid Facebook ad where you want this CPC or CPM that you're comfortable with, and you expect that you need to convert 2% of that traffic because it's targeted traffic. The organic piece it's a little bit of a slower burn, and not as many convert. Some people are just fans, but it ends up accomplishing the same thing, but it's a fraction. It's a fraction of that audience. It's not even comparable to like the normal stuff we do from advertising.
I'm sure you as the CEO see those tremendous numbers and are constantly thinking about, hey, how can I open up that faucet a little bit more and kind of get them over in there? Is there anything in particular that's worked for doing that, for getting them in?
No. So, I mean, we're using all these channels. The content we're not hard selling. We're not saying buy this product now. There are the occasional sales videos and sales content, but it's the exception, not the rule. And it's just a softer approach. And we have content on our site, a bunch of art. We do dozen articles a month on just stuff about the outdoors and adventure and camping and hiking. And we have videos, and you can see all the past boxes on our site. So we do have stuff that's light CTAs to get people to our site. Once they get to our site, though, it's normal e-commerce, right? It's all of the normal funnels, and we're trying to close them, and there's product abandonment and collection abandonment and SMS abandonment and whatever you could think of, we're trying. So at that point, once we get them in there on the site and they're in our ecosystem, it's normal rules of the game.
Okay, so then kind of going towards the end of the cycle here, what are you guys seeing in terms of lifetime value? Like how long are your members staying? And then maybe let's just talk a little bit about retention too, right? What are you guys doing when there is customer breakage for either voluntary or involuntary reasons? What kind of tactics do you guys have in place?
Sure. So we typically see our duration of a customer being a little over 7 months. Now our LTV, and I guess LTV, lifetime value, are you looking at that as like top line revenue associated from the customer or profit?
It's a really good question. I've had some healthy debates with pricing experts around how to look at that. And,
yeah, me too.
Looking at it as just top line revenue, it's a metric. But if if the cost of product delivery and acquisition costs is 99% of that, then who gives a crap, right? It's like, well, it doesn't really matter that much. So, usually against at least some gross margin, I think is the most valuable.
So so if we're talking lifetime value from a spend perspective, our customers spend right under $1,000, 990-ish, slight fluctuations, but call it 980 to 992. And yeah, it's pretty cool. So 675 to 700 of it is subscription revenue, and the other 300 and change is one-time ancillary products. So we have about 500 SKUs on our site that aren't subscription based. Now, when we're talking about margin, we're typically it's about $300 in profit after the dust settles on everything.
Yeah, that's still healthy. That's pretty good. Well, we'll talk a little bit too about retention on the subscription side, right? When maybe we probably need to address voluntary and involuntary separately, but
yeah.
If it's a customer saying, hey, just coming in to cancel, are you guys doing anything to try to save, or what's your philosophy around, hey, make it easy, frictionless, let them cancel because that increases the likelihood that they're going to come back? I mean, how do you guys view that?
Sure. So we went down the rabbit hole of retention, both type and both passive and active churn. We went down this rabbit hole pre-COVID, when it wasn't cool back then. People weren't really talking about it then. But we spent, and we're still honing in, and we make improvements every couple of months to our current process. So I do agree that it should be easy to cancel. If you make it difficult, if they have to call a number, if it becomes problematic, that person put yourself in their shoes. They're not going to want to return ever. And given an opportunity, they might talk negatively about your brand.
Absolutely.
So we don't make it super difficult. We do have, so when we're talking about active churn, so a BattlBox customer has their dashboard, they log into their account, they see, past orders, and they have kind of a dashboard of changes they can make. So when that pops up, there's a cancel button on the bottom right. They hit that. So what happens next is dependent on a few things. So we do have some calling retention offers to keep customers, but they have to check certain criteria to see that. So they have to have over a certain amount of renewals with us first. They also have to have never done one of these retention offers previously. If their renewals are down and they've already done one of these offers before, they click cancel. It's going to ask them a simple why with 5 different options, and then click submit and you're done. Subscription canceled. If you've had several renewals and you haven't done one of these retention offers previously, we're going to position and it's depending on what they're doing. We have about 5 different options at any given time, but we swap stuff out when we're testing of some sort of retention offer to keep that person. It could be a free item. It could be a discount off their next box. Depending on their behavior, it might just tell them, hey, did you know you can actually just skip a month instead of having to cancel? So bunch of different options. It's something we're actually putting some stuff in place, hopefully by the end of this month, to take it to a next level. We'll swap and we'll want to better understand why they're canceling first, so that we can really have a tailored solution based on their answer that's more in line with meeting the needs of the problem, right? If it's a monetary issue, maybe give them some other frequencies or a discount. But if it's something else, we can address that too. So it's probably more our current active churn dashboard retention tool. I would say is probably better than most at this point, but I think there's serious room for improvement because if you can really customize it even further based on why that customer is there today wanting to cancel, I think it ultimately leads to a better customer experience. And even if you you let them cancel and they cancel that day, you still made it easy, but you're also getting insights that could be used maybe to position offering to them later that might make sense, or it could be learnings that are of maybe substance and size, and we need to say, okay, we have this many customers canceling for this specific reason. Maybe it's a us problem and not a customer problem. So excited about that. When it comes to passive churn, I hate passive churn, but it is what it is. So we renew all customers on the 15th of the month. So from the 15th to the 26th, we're going through the normal dunning process. They're going to get in that window, that 12-day window, they're going to get 5 emails from us and a text message. One of the emails is from Luke, our head of customer service. I believe one of them's from me. One of them's from Brandon Kerr, in the face of our brand. All in. One's from the warehouse guys, wanting to know what are you doing with your box. But it's all the emails are very on brand. It's humanizing because it's actual people, and we've seen success with that. SMS obviously serves its purpose. Who knows? Our emails could be hitting the spam folder, so it just allows another easy one link, one click touch to update their cardinal file. After the dunning process, we don't cancel the customer out completely yet. We our CS team pulls an export of the people that failed during the renewal dunning, and then they reach out manually. They're using some scripts, but they're reaching out from our CS platform, making sure, is there anything else we can do to help? Like not even like, hey, you need to fix your car. Like, do you want us to like help you? Do you want us to like put your renewal out a little bit? Like, are you having a banking issue? Like, help us understand the problem. Because we probably ran into it before, and we can maybe offer a solution to it. And they do that for about 7 days. And then at that point, it's unfortunately, subscription is we cancel it out or manually on our side.
Yeah. Do you have any insights as you go into that cure process through dunning and outreach, all of those things? Like, what do you actually recover from that?
Yeah. So on the 15th, unfortunately, about 10 to 12% of our cards fail. Okay. So during the dunning process of the 15th to the 26th, we end up recovering 72% of them, which is
up 10 to 12. Okay.
Yeah. So it's a healthy recovery rate.
Yeah.
At that point, so we're 3-ish, 4-ish% still failing. At the point where Luke's team, the CS team, takes it and they start reaching out, we recover another 50%. So we end up getting that number south of 2, which for us is a win. And I don't know how much more we can move the needle on it.
Yeah, I mean that's in my experience of working with all kinds of different subscription brands that are all card. At 97, 98%, aggregated collection or pay through rate is pretty tremendous, especially given, you're far higher ticket than the average subscription business. I mean, that's a testament to those processes right there, because that's kind of unheard of.
So then we have something else. So
wait, there's more.
There's more. So this is the craziest thing is the date frame doesn't make sense, but we've tested all the time frames. So in the 90 to 120 day window, since that customer is left, they hit a category, it's a part of an export, and Patrick, our win-back specialist, picks up the phone and calls them and gives them, again, certain criteria, certain tiers, certain overall spend with us, certain amount of renewals. So not everybody reaches this, but if it was, arguably a high value customer to us, Patrick on our CS team picks up the phone and calls, and on it's that 90 to 120 day window, which doesn't make sense. To me, it didn't. I was like, oh, this will work best when it's fresh, when it's like a couple weeks fresh from canceling. That's right. When we do it, right? Yeah. But we did the whole gambit of testing enough to get rid of like mathematical variance, all the different ranges up to over a year, and then 90 to 120 day for some reason performs enough to know that it's not an error. Like it is the best window. So he reaches out.
Enough time for a customer to realize how much they miss it, get in the box?
Possibly. I've tried to wrap my head around it and I can't. but that's probably, that actually makes sense. That could be the reason. But so he reaches out and he's it's not a needle mover, but he's typically bringing back 75 customers back. And once they come back, they this is a new program for us. It's only 8 months old. But all the data suggesting they're staying on like past traditional LTV marks, which is interesting.
Yeah. I mean, customers don't pay for a variety of reasons, right? And some of it may very well be, I just didn't have money and I was embarrassed and you didn't want to reach out or talk about it, right? Whatever. Right. You get 90 to 100 days down the road, they're in a different spot and they're like, yeah, I really actually like that thing and I do miss getting it. And then, but that's an engaged customer for sure, right? The one that would respond to that anyway. So it kind of makes sense, right? That they would stick around a lot longer. But that's incredible insight right there. That's valuable information.
Yeah. Cool.
Well, John, I've truly enjoyed this conversation, and I appreciate you going into the weeds there and kind of, giving us some background into those insights that, like I said, those are some amazing metrics you guys should be really proud of. But for any of the listeners who want to learn more about BattlBox or any other brands, or maybe have some questions about some of the things we talked about today, where can they go?
So I'm most active on LinkedIn, which I don't know. I like LinkedIn.
Yeah, me too.
I'm on the other platforms, but LinkedIn is kind of my go-to. I have a blog called onlinequeso.com. I literally just share stuff that's, but not just the victories, because I don't like when all I'm reading about are people winning. I like when, we failed at something, but there was a lesson learned and we are now smarter because of it. So I've journeyed a few things on there. The first year of TikTok, we've got our teeth kicked in, and I documented a lot of that, the learnings we were getting from it. So I'm pretty much of an open book on the blog. And then our site, BattlBox, BattlBox.com. You can also go to Netflix, go to the search bar, type in BattlBox, and you can see our TV show.
Again, John, thanks so much. Really appreciate this. Has been valuable information for all of our listeners. So appreciate you coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me, Nick. This is fun.